Well, hello, and welcome to the Stories of Country Music YouTube channel. I thought I'd do something a little bit different today. I want to check in on some of the old timers of country music and see what they're up to today by going through some of the most recent news articles that I have found. Now, I do like the history of country music. In fact, I love it, spend a lot of time researching it and talking about it on this channel. But I think it's also cool to kind of look back at what some of these people are doing today with their careers and their lives, even though they're not front and center on the country music scene anymore. So, on tap today, we have Bill Anderson, Martina McBride, Vince Gill, Alabama, and we'll wrap it up with Dolly Parton. If you like this type of content, please be sure to like and subscribe. We're getting new subscribers every day, and I like where this channel is going, and other people are too. I'm glad to see it growing as well as it is. All right, the first article I'm going to look at today is Bill Anderson celebrates 60 years on the Grand Ole Opry. 60 years. Now, I'm going to do a plug here and say that I do have videos on Bill Anderson. If you want to check those out, I will try to include them in the description. Sometimes I say that on the videos and then I don't, but I will try to. Now, I've been to the Grand Ole Opry many times, and Bill Anderson is one of my favorite hosts. He still hosts today. 60 years. Can you imagine? 60 years. 1961 is when he was invited to become a member of the Grand Ole Opry. All right, he is in the Country Music Hall of Fame. He's in the Songwriters Hall of Fame and celebrates 60 years as a member of the Grand Ole Opry. Now, to celebrate that, you can see they had a packed house on hand to celebrate this humongous anniversary. This is the cool part that, of course, Bill Anderson still writes. One of the videos that I did on Bill Anderson was how he hooked up with Vince Gill and basically resurrected his career in the 90s, writing more songs, and they'll mention some of the songs here that he has written. Anderson has had hits on the radios on the radio as a songwriter in every decade, from City Lights back in, late 1950s. Once a Day by Connie Smith, of course. He wrote a bunch of Connie Smith songs. I want to do a video on that as well. The relationship between Bill Anderson and Connie Smith. It's got some cool stories to it that I'd like to discover. Two Teardrops by Steve Wariner, a modern song clearly. Whiskey Lullaby by Brad Paisley and Alison Krauss. Give It Away by George Strait. Which Bridge to Cross by Vince Gill. So the point is, he's been writing his entire career, continues to write, and has had hits in so many decades. Of course, I guess he's still seen on RFD TV through his Country Family Reunion, and he did have his own television show from 1965 to 1974, which I also covered a little bit of that and some of those videos I talk about. So who showed up on the 60th anniversary at the Grand Ole Opry for Bill Anderson? Whispering Bill Anderson. Vince Gill, Sarah Evans, Mark Wills, and Jeannie Seeley all paid homage to the country music legend. And Bill wrote a very personal song called Thankful for This Occasion. There was hardly a dry eye in the auditorium. This was in July, so last month. And that's pretty cool. Bill Anderson is a really cool guy. His songwriting chops are great. That's how he made his career. That, and he's so personable. He's so personable on stage. People can just easily relate to him. Good guy, good story. Okay, Martina McBride honored with a new exhibit at Nashville's Country Music Hall of Fame. So I learned some new things by reading this exhibit, or this article here about Martina McBride's new exhibit, celebrating the 30th anniversary of her record deal with RCA after signing in 1991. And then I hit 1991 and I was like, really? 1991 is 30 years ago. My goodness, how time flies. 1991, maybe 15 years ago is what it seems, not 30. Of course, she had very powerful voice. We'll notice down here, I'll just go ahead and show it. The Power of Her Voice is the name of the exhibit because she has just that powerful, strong voice. And she was known for singing a lot of freedom anthems for women, like Independence Day. This one's for the girls, Broken Wing, and others. And we'll go on down here. I think, of course, she talks about being thrilled with having her on exhibit in the Country Music Hall of Fame and Museum, which is certainly cool. Now, here's some of the highlights of the exhibit. She's a member of the Grand Ole Opry, has won 4 CMA Female Vocalist of the Year awards and 3 ACM Top Female Vocalists, and sold 18 million records. Not bad at all. Now, this is something I wanted to touch on. We're talking about Kyle Young, the CEO of the Hall of Fame. Where does he mention it down here? Yes, right here. He said, Kyle, the example she set throughout her career puts her in line with heroes like Loretta Lynn and Reba McEntire. And this is where I learned some things I did not know. Others on hand to celebrate the exhibit included Garth Brooks, who gave Martina McBride her first big career break when he invited her to go on tour as his opening act. Her husband, John McBride, worked for Brooks as a sound engineer in the early 90s. Before she signed a record deal, she was part of the crew selling Brooks's tour merchandise. I did not know Martina McBride was on tour with Garth Brooks selling merchandise. And here's a cool little picture of them from way back in the day, 1992, Garth Brooks, Martina McBride. How cool is that? And then it goes on to talk. I should have given credit where credit's due as well. This is from Forbes.com if you want to find this article. And it goes on. Here's some nice pictures of the exhibit where you can read more. But the new exhibit for Martina McBride in the Hall of Fame. If you get to Nashville, be sure to visit. All right, a cool story by Vince Gill from musicrow.com. Now, this story is super cool. Vince Gill donates prized Roy Acuff fiddle to the Country Music Hall of Fame and Museum. And there's a picture of the fiddle. Now, there's a backstory on this fiddle that, again, I did not know. And that's the reason I love reading these stories, just to learn these things. Okay, here we go. Let's dive in. Roy Acuff's cherished fiddle has been permanently added to the Country Music Hall of Fame. It's on view to the public beginning July 1st, so it's there now. The fiddle was originally found and given to Acuff by, now here's the cool part, American soldiers stationed in Germany at the end of World War II, and was acquired and donated to the museum by Vince Gill, who is also a member of the Hall of Fame and president of the museum's board of officers and trustees. All right, let's see. The instrument's story exemplifies the popularity of country music and Acuff in particular during World War II, which there's so much of a backstory to how country music grew, especially during World War II. And I'll give you a brief story on it, even though it deserves its own video, and I hope to give it one day as well. But basically, through WSM, the powerful radio station coming out of Nashville that played the Grand Ole Opry and country stars on the Grand Ole Opry. Country music was spreading, certainly in the Southeast, very powerfully, very widely. And when World War II came, the boys from the Southeast got shipped to different bases overseas, boot camps, this, that, and the other. And it was basically a melting pot of people from all over the country. That's how other people from different parts of the country who have never heard of Roy Acuff or never heard of, people from Jimmy Rogers, the Grand Ole Opry, who weren't familiar with country music, they all started melding together and hanging out together. And then, they would hear the records, or the radio would be blasting one Saturday night, and they would start to say, hey, what's that sound? What's that? Oh, it's the Grand Ole Opry. And kind of country music grew as a result of World War II, from all the guys just being put together and then being exposed to country music. So this story kind of tells a little bit about that. Then a major Opry star and best-selling artist, Acuff enjoyed broad appeal at the time, of course. The instrument was built in Germany around 1890 and is a copy of some of these guys here. I don't know how to pronounce their names. But the fiddle was discovered in a bombed-out music store in Frankfurt, Germany, by soldiers from the U.S. Army's 348th Engineer Combat Battalion. The fiddle was sent to Acuff, their favorite country performer. That's just kind of cool. Their favorite country performer. These American soldiers found it and gave it to Roy Acuff. He liked it so much that, he made it his primary fiddle for years. It was acquired by Vince Gill, who became good friends in the late 1980s. And of course, if you know anything about Vince Gill, you know he loves music. You know he's very friendly, very personable. So here's what Vince said. It felt important to me that the great Roy Acuff's fiddle joined the ranks of other revered instruments in the museum's permanent collection, including Maybelle Carter's Gibson guitar, and Bill Monroe's Gibson mandolin. The fiddle was given to Acuff by soldiers during a time of war because of how much he meant to them. He meant a lot to me as well. And then here's Kyle Young again talking about the CEO of the Hall of Fame, talking about what it means to the Country Music Hall of Fame. So how cool is that? Vince Gill had it, donated it to the Country Music Hall of Fame, and now the Hall of Fame has Roy Acuff's fiddle that was given to him by American soldiers after World War II. That's cool. All right, the band Alabama. This comes from musicrow.com. Alabama to kick off 50th anniversary tour at Nashville's Bridgestone Arena. Okay, this article is a little bit old, but I did want to bring it up. This was last June that this was brought up, that they are on tour now on their 50th anniversary tour. It was mostly delayed to COVID and is picking back up after 2 years. They stopped in Nashville on July 2nd and 3rd, so that's beyond us or behind us. Let's see, it was these two concerts marked the band's first arena performance in Nashville in nearly 2 decades. I've seen Alabama a couple of times. They do put on a good show. I think I saw them once at the Fox Theater in Atlanta, which I really enjoyed. My wife and I went there. The 25-day arena and amphitheater tour will take place through 2021 and early 2022. We'll have special guests like Martina McBride, the Marshall Tucker Band, Travis Tritt, and so forth and so on. So where are they now in the tour? I did want to bring that up. If you scroll down, today is August 3rd, might be the 4th or 5th by the time I get this video out. Nonetheless, that being the case, they'll be in Orange Beach, Alabama, the 6th, Pelham, Alabama, the 7th, and then you can scroll on down and see where they're going to be in concert, the band Alabama, on their 50th anniversary concert. Those are some big numbers. 50th. When you start saying those numbers right now, you know you've been around the industry for a while and you've had a great career. So that's the band Alabama. The last one, Dolly Parton. Here we go. One of Dolly Parton's favorite nicknames is the Book Lady. Now, this is from cheatsheet.com, which I'm not completely familiar with, but it is the article that came up. And I know about this, and I'll tell you why here in a moment. But it obviously introduces Dolly Parton, talks about her career of over 8 decades, the queen of country music, her signature look, how involved she is in so many charities, how involved she is in the state of Tennessee, being an American treasure, as it says right here. Just everything that Dolly is. And it talks a little bit about her history, being poor, had 12 children in a one-room log cabin. What does it say? She sang on, I heard about this. She sang on local programs as a youth and even once at the Grand Ole Opry at age 13. She also started very, very young. Let's see if I can do a drill of some names. Tanya Tucker started very young. And the other one I'm trying to think of, Barbara Mandrell, started very young. Now, Barbara Mandrell didn't start on the Grand Ole Opry that soon, like Dolly and Tanya did. But she was playing music, singing at a very, very, very young age professionally. So back to Dolly. Okay, so the point I wanted to get to is obviously more than a performer. It gets into all that she has done through charities and so forth. But this is where I wanted to stop. I do not know why this has a big old blank advertisement. It sure is irritating. It takes up most of the page. The Imagination Library by Dolly Parton. Now, what is this? And this is where she says one of my favorite nicknames is the Book Lady. Over the years, it says, Parton has donated and helped raise funds for cancer research, hospitals, animal rights, many other causes. Throughout her long career of philanthropy, one of her first and longest lasting focuses has always been children's literacy. In 1995, she started the Children's Imagination Library, which mails one book each month to an enrolled child from their birth until they enter kindergarten. The aim of the organization is to encourage children and families to not just limit reading to a school, but instead instill a love for learning and reading in children early on in life. Now, this is kind of cool for a couple of reasons. One, I have 2 little girls, and my oldest, who is about 3 now, has been enjoying these books since she was about 1. We signed up for the Imagination Library. And then, of course, my youngest daughter, who's 1 now, is also enjoying those books. So every month, for free, without them charging us anything, they send us a book that the girls get to read. And so that all comes from Dolly Parton's Imagination Library. Now, if you scroll on down here, which, by the way, well, I'll get to that in a second, you can look at some of the program milestones. And if you look at 2020, Dolly Parton's Imagination Library gives its 150 millionth book. It has expanded to different countries, Ireland, the UK, there's a couple of more as well. 150 million books Dolly Parton and her Imagination Library has been responsible for sending out. And of course, my girls get the books as well. So I'm very familiar with this. Enjoy it very much. I think if you scroll on down here, you can click on United States. It'll take you to a link where you can learn about more. If you've got kids or grandkids that might be interested, nieces, nephews, what have you, who would be interested in this, it all comes from Dolly Parton's Imagination Library. All right, well, that was something new we decided to try. I decided to try. I hope you liked it. And like I said, I think it's cool to go and see what these heroes of country music and these people that have had such long, illustrious careers are doing now. So if you enjoyed this, please like and subscribe. Let me know in the comments if you would, if you enjoyed it. It will encourage me to keep going on and doing these updates here, which I might do once a week, every couple of weeks, or if I see something a group of stories coming out in a handful of days back to back, might do something like that. So I guess that'll be it. Anyway, thanks for watching, and take care.